Over the last 5 years, the average diesel pickup owner in the United States has spent roughly $12,000 on emission system repairs alone. That is not a misprint. I've been turning wrenches in Texas since 1986, and I've watched this number climb every single year. The trucks people bought because they were supposed to be cheaper to run are now hemorrhaging money at the shop. I am seeing owners trade in their Cummins and Power Stroke rigs for a bone stock F-150 5.0 V8 because the math finally caught up. Let me show you exactly why that math is broken and who is about to feel it. I'm Wade Tucker. I've been working on pickup trucks since before some of you were born, starting in my uncle's shop in Odessa in 1986. Subscribe and drop a comment. I want to know if you are currently driving a diesel or a gasser and what is keeping you up at night about it. Here's the thing nobody at the dealer will tell you. Diesel pickup trucks built after 2007 are not like the old 7.3-liter Power Stroke or the early Cummins. Those old engines were simple. You could fix them with basic hand tools and a decent instruction manual. Today's diesel is a computer with an engine attached to it. The Environmental Protection Agency mandated a set of emission control systems that were designed for commercial fleets running on highway diesel, not for a guy who tows a boat on weekends and commutes 30 miles to work the rest of the week. Those systems are expensive to repair, and they are failing at mileage counts that would have been considered young for an older diesel truck. Let me walk through the 4 systems that are killing diesel pickup owners financially. The first one is the diesel particulate filter, commonly called the DPF. This is a ceramic filter that sits in the exhaust stream and captures soot particles. As it fills up, the truck runs a regeneration cycle to burn that soot off. The problem is that short trip driving never allows the regeneration to complete. If you are doing mostly city driving under 30 minutes at a time, the DPF never fully regenerates. It keeps filling. Eventually, it gets so clogged that the truck goes into limp mode, or the engine management system forces a parked regen. When that filter finally fails or needs replacement, you are looking at $3,000 to $5,000 from an independent shop. The dealer will charge you $5 to $7 grand to replace it with an OEM unit. I have seen quotes as high as $8,000 for a 6.7-liter Power Stroke DPF replacement in the last year. The second system is the diesel exhaust fluid system, commonly called DEF. This is a separate tank that holds a urea solution. The system injects DEF into the exhaust stream ahead of the selective catalytic reduction catalyst. This converts NOx gases into harmless nitrogen and water. It sounds clever until you need to replace the pump, the injector, or the tank itself. A failed DEF pump on a 2018 through 2022 Ram 1500 with the 6.7-liter Cummins runs about $2,800 to $3,500 at the dealer. The DEF injector itself can set you back $1,500 to $2,000. And here's the part that gets people. If you run the DEF tank completely dry or let it get contaminated, you are looking at tank replacement, which can top $3,000 in parts and labor. I had a customer last fall who let his DEF sit unused through a whole winter because his truck was sitting in the shop waiting for a different repair. The fluid crystallized. Tank had to come out. $3,100 repair. The third system is the exhaust gas recirculation valve, called the EGR. This system routes a portion of exhaust gas back into the intake to lower combustion temperatures and reduce NOx formation. On paper, it makes sense. In practice, the EGR valve on modern diesels gets clogged with carbon deposits fast, especially if you are doing a lot of short trips. When it fails, you get reduced power, poor throttle response, and sometimes the check engine light with a code pointing directly at the EGR cooler or the valve itself. Replacing the EGR valve and cooler on a 6.7 Power Stroke runs $1,800 to $2,400. On a Duramax, you are looking at $1,500 to $2,200 for the complete assembly. These are not parts that wear out from high mileage on the highway. They fail because of how the truck is driven, and most owners have no idea they are supposed to clean them until it is too late. The fourth system is the Selective Catalytic Reduction Catalyst, or SCR. This is the big catalytic converter that sits downstream of the DEF injection point. It requires the DEF system to be working correctly in order to function. If the DEF pump fails or the injector gets clogged and you keep driving, the SCR catalyst gets overloaded with unconverted NOx. The result is a failed SCR catalyst. Replacement cost on a 2017 through 2023 diesel pickup runs $4,000 to $6,500 from a dealer. Independent shops can do it for $3,000 to $5,000 depending on the truck and the parts sourcing. Either way, you are walking into a bill that is bigger than a lot of people paid for their down payment on the truck. Add these four systems together and you have a repair liability that did not exist on any diesel truck built before 2007. Pre-2007 trucks had no DPF, no DEF system, no SCR catalyst. The EGR system on those older engines was simpler and far less expensive to fix. You could rebuild an EGR cooler on a 7.3-liter Power Stroke for under $300 in parts. You cannot say that about a modern 6.7-liter Power Stroke EGR system. The complexity increased, the repair costs increased, and the frequency of failure increased because these systems are asked to do things they were not necessarily designed to handle in a pickup truck application driven like a pickup truck. Now let me talk about the break-even point because this is the number I want every diesel owner to actually calculate. Diesel trucks get better fuel economy than their gasoline counterparts. That is a fact. A 2019 F-250 with the 6.7-liter Power Stroke might get 16 to 19 miles per gallon under load. A comparable F-250 with the 6.2-liter gasoline V8 might get 11 to 14. The diesel does win on efficiency, especially when towing. But here's the calculation nobody is doing. If you paid a $4,000 premium for the diesel option when you bought the truck, and you are spending an extra $800 to $1,200 per year in maintenance and repair costs that a gasoline truck would not have, your fuel economy savings at $3.50 a gallon need to work that much harder just to break even. For a guy driving 15,000 miles per year and getting 3 miles per gallon better with diesel, you are saving about $1,700 per year in fuel. Subtract the extra annual maintenance cost of around $1,000 and your net savings is $700. That $4,000 premium takes almost 6 years to pay back, and that assumes nothing goes wrong with the emission systems. As soon as one of those four systems fails, the math flips completely and you are underwater. I want to specifically address the Ram 1500 EcoDiesel owners because there are a lot of you and you are getting hit hard right now. The EcoDiesel was sold as the efficient alternative. It got great fuel economy numbers on paper, 25 to 29 miles per gallon on the highway. People bought them specifically for the mileage. The problem is that the 3-liter EcoDiesel uses a DPF, DEF system, EGR, and SCR catalyst just like the larger heavy-duty diesels. When those systems fail on a half-ton truck, you are in the same repair cost territory as the 3/4-ton trucks. But you bought the truck because you wanted a fuel-efficient daily driver, not a workhorse. I have seen multiple EcoDiesel owners in the last 2 years trading their trucks in for an F-150 with the 5.0 Coyote V8 or a Ram 1500 with the 5.7 Hemi. The 5.0 Coyote gets 19 to 24 miles per gallon on the highway in the F-150. The 5.7 Hemi in the Ram 1500 gets 17 to 22. Yes, they are not quite as efficient as the EcoDiesel on paper, but the absence of a $4,000 repair hanging over your head changes the entire ownership experience. Let me dig deeper into the DPF issue because this is where I see the most panic in the shop. The DPF is designed to capture soot during normal operation and burn it off during regeneration. The truck is supposed to manage this automatically. In theory, you drive down the highway for 45 minutes at highway speeds, and the exhaust temperatures get high enough to burn the soot clean. This works great for someone who actually drives like that. Here's what I see in the real world. A guy buys a 2019 F-250 Power Stroke to tow his fifth wheel on weekends. During the week, he drives to his job site 25 minutes each way. He never gets that long, continuous highway run. His DPF fills up faster than the regeneration cycle can handle. The truck starts telling him something is wrong through the dashboard messages. He ignores it because he does not understand what the messages mean. By 65,000 miles, his DPF is so loaded that the truck derates power, sometimes down to a crawl speed that makes merging onto the interstate dangerous. The repair quote comes in at $4,200. He had no idea this was coming. He budgets for oil changes and transmission service like he always did. He never budgeted for a DPF replacement on a truck with 65,000 miles. DPF regeneration failure is not covered under most powertrain warranties if the failure is deemed a maintenance issue rather than a defect. The manufacturers will tell you that you should have driven the truck correctly to prevent the issue. That is a fair point technically, but they know damn well that a huge percentage of diesel pickup owners use their trucks exactly like this gentleman does. The design of these systems creates a situation where the failure is almost inevitable for a specific usage pattern, yet the warranty coverage excludes it. DEF system failures are the ones that really surprise people because the DEF tank is completely separate from the fuel system. You do not interact with it the way you interact with diesel fuel. Most owners barely know where the DEF tank is located on their truck. I had a customer in my shop last spring who bought a used 2020 Chevy Silverado HD with the Duramax. He had owned it for 8 months. He had no idea there was a separate DEF tank. He noticed the truck was running rough and the check engine light came on. He brought it to me. I pulled codes. The DEF tank had an internal sensor failure. The pump was also showing signs of wear. Total quote from the dealer for both repairs was $4,100. He almost traded the truck right there on the spot. He was one bad day away from it. The 5.0 Coyote V8 in the F-150 deserves a closer look because it is what so many diesel owners are switching to. Ford's 5.0-liter V8 makes 400 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque in the current F-150 configuration. It has direct injection, variable valve timing, and an aggressive intake manifold that gives it excellent throttle response across the rev range. Towing capacity is right there with the diesel option on most configurations. The 10-speed automatic transmission paired with the Coyote is one of the best automatics Ford has ever built. And here's the part that matters for the wallet. There is no DPF, no DEF tank, no SCR catalyst, and no EGR system with the complexity of the diesel setup. The engine is simpler. The maintenance is simpler. Your annual maintenance cost on a 5.0 F-150 doing mixed driving is roughly $400 to $600 per year, assuming you stay on top of oil changes, air filters, and transmission service. Compare that to $800 to $1,400 per year for a modern diesel with all its emission systems, and the math starts to pull hard in the gasoline direction. The 5.7 Hemi in the Ram 1500 is another strong contender. The MDS cylinder deactivation system gives it decent fuel economy for a V8, shutting down cylinders when you do not need the power. Towing capacity on a properly equipped Ram 1500 Hemi maxes out around 12,000 pounds, which covers most owner needs. The 5.7 has been proven reliable across hundreds of thousands of miles in a wide range of conditions. Replacement parts are abundant and affordable. A set of spark plugs on the 5.7 Hemi costs about $80. A set of ignition coils runs about $45 each. Contrast that with the injector and emission system parts for a Cummins or Duramax, where a single high-pressure fuel pump can run $1,200 to $2,200. The cost difference in maintenance is not trivial. It is cumulative, and it compounds over the years you own the truck. The 6.2-liter Ecotec 3 V8 in the Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra is the third leg of this gas-powered workhorse platform. With 430 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque, it tows confidently and runs reliably. Like the Coyote and the Hemi, it does not require DEF. There is no DPF to clog. The emission systems are conventional O2 sensors and catalytic converters, which have been around for decades and are well understood by every mechanic in the country. You can get a catalytic converter replaced at any independent shop for $800 to $1,500. You cannot say the same about an SCR catalyst replacement on a diesel. Now let me talk about who diesel still makes sense for, because I am not here to tell you diesel is never the right answer. Diesel makes sense for a very specific set of use cases. If you are regularly towing a fifth-wheel trailer that weighs more than 20,000 pounds, diesel is where you want to be. The torque advantage is real, and it matters when you are pulling loads that heavy. If you are putting more than 30,000 miles per year on the truck and doing a lot of highway driving, the fuel economy advantage of diesel becomes significant enough to overcome the maintenance cost differential. If you are operating in a commercial capacity and the truck is a business asset that you can write off, the total cost of ownership calculations shift in diesel's favor because you are capturing the fuel savings against your taxable income. If you live in a cold climate and you need reliable cold starts and consistent cabin heating without the engine working hard, diesel has advantages there too. These are legitimate use cases and they are not rare, but they describe a specific type of owner. They do not describe the majority of people buying diesel pickup trucks at the dealer today. Here's a story from my shop that illustrates the trap perfectly. 3 years ago, a customer named Tom brought in his 2017 F350 with a 6.7-liter Power Stroke. He had bought it new in 2017. He used it to tow his camper, maybe 12,000 pounds, maybe 15 times a year. The rest of the time, it was his daily driver. He drove about 18,000 miles per year, mostly short trips. By 2023, at around 85,000 miles, the DPF needed replacement. $4,200. He paid it. 6 months later, the DEF pump started making noise. $2,900. He paid it. In 2024, the EGR cooler developed a leak. $2,100. He started asking questions. By the time he finished doing the math, he had spent $11,600 on emission system repairs in 3 years. He was not a heavy-duty user. He was a weekend camper and a weekday commuter. He traded the truck in for a 2024 F-150 with the 5.0 Coyote. He told me the trade-in value on his F-350 was barely enough to cover the loan balance. He got absolutely hammered on the diesel depreciation curve while racking up repair bills that his fuel savings never came close to offsetting. Tom is not an outlier. Tom is the rule now. The numbers I am seeing in my shop and from talking to mechanics at other independent shops across Texas and the broader South are consistent. Emission-related repairs on post-2007 diesel pickups are running 3 to 4 times higher per mile than equivalent repairs on gasoline pickups from the same era. The reason is simple. The diesel has systems that the gasoline truck does not have. Those systems are expensive to fix, and they fail at relatively predictable mileage intervals for a lot of usage patterns. The used diesel market is starting to reflect this. Look at what is happening at auction values for diesel pickups over 100,000 miles. Prices have softened considerably in the last 18 months. Trucks that would have commanded a premium 3 years ago are now selling at values closer to their gasoline equivalents. The market is telling you something. Buyers are getting educated and they are nervous about the repair liability that comes with a high-mileage diesel. Gasoline engines in full-size pickups have closed the gap that used to exist. The 5.0 Coyote, the 5.7 Hemi, and the 6.2 Ecotec 3 are powerful, reliable, and efficient enough for the vast majority of pickup truck owners. They tow well, they accelerate well, they start reliably in cold weather. The fuel economy gap that used to separate gas from diesel was significant. In the current generation of powertrains, that gap has narrowed to the point where the economic advantage of diesel is no longer automatic. You have to run the numbers for your specific situation, and for a lot of owners, those numbers are not coming out in diesel's favor. Let me give you a specific example of how the math works in 2026. You buy a new F-250 Power Stroke at roughly $68,000. You compare it to a new F-250 with the 6.2-liter V8 at roughly $58,000. $10,000 premium for the diesel. You drive 20,000 miles per year. You tow a moderate load maybe 10 times a year. Diesel fuel in most of the country is running about 30 cents more per gallon than regular gasoline. Your diesel gets 17 miles per gallon under your driving conditions. Your gas V8 gets 12. At current fuel prices, your annual fuel savings is roughly $1,400. Your diesel costs roughly $1,000 more per year in maintenance than the gas V8. Your net savings is $400 per year. That $10,000 premium takes 25 years to pay back, and that assumes no major emission system repairs. As soon as one hits, you are done. The smart move is to run your own numbers. Do not listen to the salesman at the dealer who tells you the diesel pays for itself. Ask him to see the emission system repair invoices. He will not have them. Ask him what the DPF replacement costs. He will not know. Come to a mechanic who actually fixes these trucks and ask what the real cost of ownership looks like over 100,000 miles. That is the only number that matters. For those of you who are still on the fence, the decision framework is straightforward. If you are towing heavy loads regularly and you cover more than 30,000 miles per year, diesel still wins on total cost of ownership. If you are doing mostly what I see in my shop, which is mixed driving with moderate or light towing, the gasoline V8 platforms are the smarter financial move. The fuel economy advantage of diesel does not overcome the repair cost disadvantage when the usage does not support the emission system maintenance requirements. The future is not clear for diesel pickups. The emission regulations are tightening. The next round of standards will require even more sophisticated after-treatment systems. The cost trajectory for these systems is not going down. Parts are not getting cheaper. Dealer labor rates are not going down. The complexity is not going away. At some point, the total cost of ownership for a diesel pickup will be so high that only commercial operators will justify the purchase. That point is not here yet, but it is closer than it was 5 years ago, and the trend line is pointing in one direction. Do not get trapped in the diesel trap because a salesman told you the fuel economy numbers were better. Get the numbers for your actual driving pattern, your actual towing needs, and your actual repair budget. That is the only way to make the right choice for your situation. If this video helped you think through the real cost of diesel ownership, hit subscribe. I am putting out videos like this every week covering the real numbers behind pickup truck ownership. Drop a comment below and tell me what you drive and whether you have run into these emission system costs. I read every comment and I respond to as many as I can. Tell me what you want me to break down next. The right answer for you depends on what you actually do with the truck, not what the marketing says, not what the fuel economy label says, what you actually do with it. That is the only calculation that matters.